In the year 1944, amidst the turmoil of World War II, a daring plan was hatched. This was a time when the world was in the grip of one of the most destructive conflicts in human history. Europe was a theatre of war, a stage where forces of freedom and tyranny clashed in a deadly dance of power. In this era of uncertainty, Operation Market Garden was conceived, a bold strategy woven into the larger tapestry of the war. Its significance? To turn the tides of the war in favour of the Allies and hasten the end of the conflict. Operation Market Garden, a name that would echo through the annals of history, was more than an operation. It was a gamble, a risky manoeuvre in a high-stakes game of war. The objective was audacious, to secure a series of bridges in the Netherlands, creating a pathway through which the Allies could bypass the formidable Siegfried Line, a defence system that was Germany's last major line of defence on the Western Front. This bypass would then pave the way for an invasion into the heart of Germany, dealing a potentially lethal blow to the enemy and bringing the war to a swift conclusion. A series of bridges, each one a stepping stone to victory, each one a link in a chain that could bring about the end of a war that had consumed the world for 5 long years. The stage was set, the plan was in motion, a daring scheme, a series of bridges, and a chance to end the war. This was the context, the backdrop against which Operation Market Garden would unfold. It was a bold and ambitious plan, a testament to the courage and audacity of the Allied forces. Little did the Allies know their plan was a bridge too far, destined to fail. But that's a story for the next scene. For now, let's remember the stage of war, the year 1944, and the daring plan that was Operation Market Garden. The operation was as audacious as it was complex. A daring plan, Operation Market Garden was conceived with 2 main components. First, the dropping of thousands of paratroopers behind enemy lines to secure a series of bridges. Second, a rapid ground force advance to link up with these airborne troops and consolidate the gains. The paratroopers, a mix of American, British and Polish, took to the skies in an armada of planes and gliders. Their mission was simple in theory, but challenging in execution. They were to land behind German lines, seize the bridges intact and hold them until relieved by the ground forces. These bridges, stretched across the Netherlands, were crucial to the Allies' plan to bypass the Siegfried Line and invade the industrial heartland of Germany. Meanwhile, the ground forces, primarily composed of British Corps, had their task cut out for them. They had to race up a single narrow road, aptly nicknamed Hell's Highway, and link up with the airborne forces. The goal was to create a 64-mile salient into German-held territory, opening the door for a decisive assault on the German heartland. Initially, the operation seemed to be going according to plan. The airborne divisions managed to secure several of the bridges, and the ground forces made good progress. There were moments of heroism and courage, with paratroopers holding out against increasing enemy pressure. The CX Corps, too, pushed forward relentlessly despite the challenging terrain and stiff enemy resistance. However, as with any military operation, there were unforeseen complications. Communication issues plagued the paratroopers, and the terrain was far more challenging than the ground forces had anticipated. The single road proved to be a bottleneck, slowing the advance of the tanks and infantry. The Germans, initially surprised, quickly regrouped and mounted a fierce resistance. They exploited the Allies' stretched supply lines and the narrow front of advance. The operation, initially promising, was starting to face significant hurdles, but in the face of enemy resistance, the operation started to unravel. The tide of the battle shifted when the Allies reached the bridge at Arnhem. The city of Arnhem, a charming Dutch town, became an unexpected crucible of war. It was here that the Allies' ambitious plan, Operation Market Garden, met its most formidable challenge. The Allied forces, a mix of British and American troops, had been making good progress. They had captured several bridges and towns along the route, but Arnhem was different. Arnhem was the final bridge, the last piece of the puzzle that would allow the Allies to bypass the heavily fortified Siegfried Line and penetrate Germany's industrial heartland. But as they approached the bridge, they found the Germans already waiting. Unbeknownst to the Allies, two panzer divisions had been refitting in Arnhem. These were not the low-grade occupation troops they had been facing, but elite, battle-hardened soldiers with heavy tanks. The Allies, primarily airborne troops, were ill-equipped to deal with such a formidable force. The battle for Arnhem was brutal. The Allies fought valiantly, but were gradually pushed back. The city's narrow streets and the surrounding countryside became a deadly maze of ambushes and counterattacks. The bridge, once seen as a stepping stone to victory, became a choke point, a deadly trap that the Allies could neither bypass nor capture. Despite their best efforts, the Allies could not take the bridge. They were forced to withdraw, leaving a small force behind to hold off the Germans as long as possible. The delay at Arnhem had severe consequences. It allowed the Germans to reinforce their positions and ultimately led to the failure of Operation Market Garden. The bridge at Arnhem became the Allies' insurmountable obstacle, their bridge too far. It was a sobering reminder of the unpredictability of war, a turning point that changed the course of the battle and, ultimately, the shape of the entire war. The failure of Operation Market Garden had profound implications. This bold and audacious plan, meant to bring about the end of the Second World War, instead resulted in heavy casualties and a significant delay in the liberation of Europe. Imagine the shock waves that ran through the Allied command when they realized the extent of the failure. Over 17,000 men lost, gone in the blink of an eye. Each one a son, a brother, a husband, a father. Each one a life full of promise, cut short by the brutalities of war. This was not just a military disaster, but a human tragedy of epic proportions. The high casualty rate was not the only consequence of this ill-fated operation. It also led to a significant delay in the end of the war. The Allies had hoped that Operation Market Garden would provide a swift path to Berlin, allowing them to bring the war to a close by Christmas of 1944. But the failure of the operation meant that the war dragged on with all the death and destruction that entailed. Perhaps the most poignant consequence was the continued occupation of the Netherlands. The Dutch people had greeted the airborne troops with joy, believing them to be their liberators. But their hopes were dashed when the operation failed. Instead of liberation, they faced another winter of occupation, characterized by starvation and hardship. The so-called Hunger Winter of 1944 was a direct result of the failure of Operation Market Garden, and it left deep scars on the Dutch people. In the end, Operation Market Garden was a gamble that didn't pay off. It was a stark reminder of the high cost of war and the unpredictable nature of military operations. It showed that even the best-laid plans can go awry, that hope can turn to despair in an instant. And it underscored the importance of strategic planning, of considering all possible outcomes before embarking on such a high-risk operation. Operation Market Garden was a gamble that didn't pay off, a stark reminder of the high cost of war. In hindsight, Operation Market Garden was a lesson in overreach. The audacity of the plan, the confidence of the Allies, and the sheer scale of the operation all pointed towards a grand victory. Yet, the operation ended in failure, and the reasons for this failure are as complex as the operation itself. The first lesson from Operation Market Garden is the danger of overconfidence. The Allies, fresh off the success of the D-Day invasion, were eager for a decisive victory that would hasten the end of the war. This eagerness led to an overestimation of their capabilities and an underestimation of the strength of the German forces. The German forces, far from being defeated, were still capable of putting up a formidable resistance. The second lesson is the perils of underestimating the enemy. Despite signs that the German forces were regrouping and reinforcing their positions, the Allies pressed ahead with the operation. The result was a costly battle that saw the Allies pinned down at the bridge at Arnhem, a bridge too far. The third lesson is the importance of logistics in any military operation. Operation Market Garden was a logistical nightmare, with the Allies having to coordinate air and ground forces across a vast territory. The shortage of supplies, the difficulties in communication, and the challenges of coordinating such a large-scale operation all contributed to the failure of the operation. Finally, Operation Market Garden is a stark reminder of the human cost of war. The operation resulted in heavy casualties on both sides, a grim reminder of the sacrifices made by those who fight in wars. In reflecting on Operation Market Garden, we gain insights into the complexities of war, the challenges of military strategy, and the human cost of ambition. We learn that in war, as in life, overreaching can lead to painful failures. Yet these failures can also be a source of valuable lessons. Operation Market Garden was indeed a bridge too far, a poignant symbol of the perils of overambition in the theatre of war.